They've basically turned next week's show into NXT Night of Champions, haven't they? Let's talk about it. What's going on, everybody? It's your buddy, it's your pal Spaz Phoenix, the YWC Reality Check, here with your September 25th NXT review, and we do have some house cleaning this week. I do hope to be getting together with Guapo at some point over the next day or so to preview the next week of wrestling, because let's face it, the next week of wrestling basically sets the template for what a week of wrestling is going to look like for the near future. We've got the revamped Monday Night Raw, we've got the first full 2-hour NXT, we've got the debut of AEW Dynamite, and we've got the SmackDown move to Fox and Friday nights. And there's a lot to unpack there. I hate that expression, there's a lot to unpack there, but there is. The template for what a week of wrestling is going to look like starts next week, and it's an interesting conversation to have. I hope to get the chance to sit down and get Guapo on here. We're going to chat the shit out of that. If we get that done, it'll go up sometime Friday. There's no NXT UK recap here. The thing I was doing there for a little while, because also, starting next week, being the template for what wrestling will look like going forward, NXT UK is moving to Thursday nights. Not a huge deal, and if you want to talk about WWE dominating the landscape, that means they have a show, except Tuesday, they have a show every single night, and that is insane. Now, what else is insane is how WWE and NXT have finally nailed the final nail into the coffin of saying fuck you to the Canadian/international fans. Now, you guys heard me say a couple weeks ago that we don't have a TV affiliate here in Canada, and so we're not going to get this new NXT on the USA Network. I'm going to be watching it on a stream, etc. It's really going to suck, and everybody's like, oh, you need to calm down. They'll get an affiliate. Eventually, they'll figure out something. Eventually, they'll probably talk to Sportsnet like they do with Raw and SmackDown. We got the announcement, not from WWE, but from Sportsnet themselves, and here's what we get. NXT happens for the United States audience on Wednesday at the proper time. It happens when it happens. The WWE Network subscribers who are paying for that service get to wait a day, which is retarded in and of itself. The Canadian fans, what do we get? We get a 1-hour cut of Wednesday night's NXT show on Friday before SmackDown. We wait 2 days to get half a show on Friday. That, I'm not going to stay on this too long. That speaks for itself. That is unacceptable. There is no way everybody within the sound of my voice right now that gives a crap about NXT is going to find another way to watch it. I am going to provide you with 3 ways to watch it right now. If you don't feel, if you're here in Canada, or I don't know what your deals are elsewhere in the world, and you're not getting NXT on the night, I will send you to watchwrestling.in, watchwrestling24.net, or bollyrules.net. Bollyrules is BOLLYRULEZZ.net. All of those are great, for the most part, streaming services, or services where the show will end and you might get it an hour or 2 later, which is better than waiting 2 days for half a fucking show. That is bullshit. Just put that out there. That's the end of the house cleaning. I got some other stuff in the works as well. Me and Kristen may be doing some movie-related stuff that I will bring to you guys when the time comes. I'm sorry, just NXT is the brand that I like, and there's no way for me to start off this review with all that collective information not being a little bit pissed and a little bit jaded. And the stream that I was watching, even though it's usually good, I was having some technical issues myself. I missed the first 5 minutes or so of the first match, but that doesn't matter because the first match was Dijak versus Keith Lee, which I really don't care about. I would really like to care, but I don't. I like Keith Lee. I'd like to see him do some better things. Dominik Dijakovic, who I'm just going to call Dijak because fuck it. I need him to give me a reason to care. It's what you come to expect from a match between the two of these guys, and it's not it's not bad. It's just we've seen it all. There's 3 or 4 spots in this match that stuck out to me in particular, so that's about the extent of the insight you're going to get from me. You got a chokeslam on the apron by Dijak that was nice. You got a top rope moonsault by Lee, which was impressive, but we know he can do it. We got a Canadian... Okay, I will say, the one cool moment in this match was the avalanche second rope Canadian Destroyer by Dijak, followed by the moonsault. That was nice, and Keith Lee with the typical twisting slam gets the win. Now, that's what bugs me about this match, too. You got the big, strong, powerful moves, right? From these slow guys. You got this one wicked highlight near the end of the match is that from the top rope Canadian Destroyer that Dijak does, that doesn't end the match, but basically a front slam does. Now I get it, accumulated damage throughout the match, rah, I've played video games. But that's a little counterproductive. Keith Lee gets the win. I just want him to... Yeah, I want better. I want a reason to give a shit, because I know Keith Lee is an entertaining guy, and Dijak needs to just go and do something else. We replay the stare down between Baszler and LeRae from last week. We remind ourselves that next week we are going to get that women's championship match between LeRae and Baszler, and that is going to be good. Candice LeRae, much like Dakota Kai, who we're going to talk about later, much like Tegan Knox, much like Ayla Dawn and a couple people from the UK, are all Bayley done properly, or what Bayley used to be done properly, and Baszler's a big bully, and that story basically tells itself. We replay the brawl after the Dane Riddle match last week that ended up in sort of everybody fighting everybody, and we get the announcement, as we got on social media ahead of time, that tonight's street fight is also a #1 contender match to get a #1 contendership to fight Adam Cole next week. Dakota Kai makes her return, and I love Dakota Kai. Dakota Kai is just fucking wonderful. If you watch Dakota Kai and you don't get a little bit happier about life, like me, ranting at the beginning of the show, then I see Dakota Kai. Her music's all happy and fun and perky, and it's all good. And she's taking on Tainara Conti, who's basically the resident NXT Women's Division jobber at this point, is she not? Huge welcome back chance. You can really tell Dakota Kai was overwhelmed by the response, much like Tegan Knox, who had that horrible injury in the second chapter of the Mae Young Classic. Dakota Kai had a similar injury at a similar time, and apparently outside of WWE they were a tag team, so the eerie coincidence there is weird. But she's been out with injury for a long time. It's her first match, I guess, within the WWE structure in 2019, and they gave her a minute, and they let her soak it in, and you could tell she was really affected by it, which was really nice. But they started out with a pump kick by Kai, kicks to the hand and wrist by Conte, which was, you take out somebody's hand and wrist, even if their offense is mostly kicks, they can't get around, they can't stabilize themselves, etc. So it's a nice little thing. Kicks to the face and judo throws by Conte, a forearm by Kai, a boot and an axe kick, haluva kick by Kai, and a GTS for the win. Now, they went to say that it's the GTK, which is the go-to kick, which is a really bad cover for them taking another jab at CM Punk, but I kind of like it, because CM Punk, as much as I like CM Punk, as much as I'm a fan of CM Punk, as much as I think he did leave for a really good reason, and he was getting screwed over by the company at the end of the day, he just sounds like a bitter fuck these days, doesn't he? I hope he comes back. I hope he re-enters the wrestling world at some point. But yeah, Dakota Kai wins with the GTS, which is apparently now the GTK. We see a video package on Johnny Gargano for reasons. We get reminded that the Undisputed Era and the Street Profits are fighting over the Tag Team Championships next week, along with LeRae versus Baszler next week, and whoever wins the street fight taking on Adam Cole next week. So, yeah, NXT next week is NXT Night of Champions, and it can't be any worse than the main roster version, can it? Now, who's going to take on Adam Cole? I'm sorry. Sinuses are doing their thing and I sound like shit. And quite frankly, there's stuff that I've missed throughout this show because the stream cut, my caster cut, my internet cut. So anybody who's going to go down in the box below and tell me, oh, you missed this or you missed that, I really don't know what to tell you. WWE won't give me a proper broadcasting platform to watch NXT on just because I live in Canada, so fuck me. Also, this is going to be premiering 7 p.m. Thursday. I made the announcement on Twitter. You guys obviously saw the premiere last week. With the show being longer, with there being more to cover, with me not wanting to just rush through the show, even though it probably sounds like I'm rushing through the show, I don't want to premiere this at like midnight on Wednesday, because that's not great, is it? Let the information collect itself. Let the let the links and the notifications and all that go out. You guys can watch this. My ideal thing is to put the NXT review from Thursday onto a premiere. The NXT episode that happens on Wednesday, I can speak, I swear, will then be uploaded and premiere the next night on the Thursday at 7 p.m. if you're watching whatever. I don't know what comes on Thursdays. I mean, you guys probably aren't watching the same things I am, but that's going to be what we do going forward. You guys already know that when I do topical videos with Kristen and Guapo, more recently Jake DeMarco as well, I'm going to save those for premiere on Friday nights. Starting to think that when Kristen and I do movie content, I may premiere those on Sunday nights, just so we sort of have the nights that particular things fall on. You guys can let me know what you think of all of that down in the box below. I know a lot of you don't join us for the premieres and catch the videos later in the week anyway, so you guys are listening to me ramble right now and you're saying, Spaz, we don't care, we'll watch the videos whenever we want to watch the videos, and that is also fair. I'd be interested to see when you guys watch, how you guys... I know a lot of people have said, pull it up on my phone and listen to it almost like it's a podcast, like I do with a lot of stuff. Yeah, this is all boring scheduling bullshit. Let's talk about the street fight between Riddle and Dane. Now, my feed cut a bunch during this, so as I say, there's a lot of stuff that I may have missed. But a series of strikes from both men to start. Riddle works the arm with and grabs a single leg and an arm bar. Bicycle kick by Dane, a Pele by Riddle, a back suplex by Riddle, and a Superman forearm. As we go to commercial break, I'm still not used to saying that in the NXT era. Coming over from the commercial break, there's a corner splash by Dane, a knee to the face, a high knee by Riddle, and some forearms, an exploder suplex, and 2 sentons. Victory roll by Riddle and a senton by Dane. Powerbomb elbow drop combination by Dane. Huge Alabama slam and a floating bro by Riddle. Anytime there's any sort of lifting, flipping, tosses or slams by Riddle to Dane, it is as impressive as it sounds, because look at the size disparity, the style disparity between the two of them. I will say, there's a lot floating around that these guys don't have a good chemistry or don't have a good matchmaking contacts. I can't disagree with that more. You've got the absolute athlete, Olympic mixed martial arts guy in Riddle, and you got the absolute polar opposite, the brawler, the powerhouse, the guy that's just gonna like smack your face off in Dane. And I think the parts that do look awkward, or the parts that do look a little off, are supposed to look a little off, if that makes sense. That's just me, however. They brawl through the crowd. This is where my thing cut a lot. I know there was some weapons involved, some chairs, some kendo sticks, etc. When my feed came back, it was just in time to see a conveniently open spot on the wall that Killian Dane cross-bodied Matt Riddle through as we go to another commercial break. They come back and they're walking the top of the bleachers like they're tight ropes. They're trading some kicks on the bleachers, and there just so happens to be a table, so he throws them through the table and hits the Broton, which is nice. They brawl towards the ring, slingshot splash by Riddle, running crossbody by Dane, and hits a Vader bomb 3 fucking times. Beat down with a chair and a kendo stick by Dane, power bomb and a chair assisted knee strike by Riddle, which just makes me think, wouldn't that hurt your fucking knee? Wouldn't that hurt your fucking knee? Kendo stick attack by Riddle, some mounted punches. Both men trade some shots, but eventually Riddle is able to work the bigger, larger, stronger Dane into a very, very painful looking and very, very awkward angled armbar. He gets the submission win. He gets a submission win in a street fight, which doesn't happen that often. Or it probably does. You're probably putting it down in the comment section right now, but I can't think of the last time that an Extreme Rules, no holds barred street fight, whatever you want to call it, ended in a technical submission like an armbar. That's and it's cool, because you could have had the typical street fight ending where some guy just gets beaten over the head with a chair until they can't get up, but that's not we did a little bit of circumventing of expectations there, and I like that. Obviously, Adam Cole comes down. Here's these two guys that have killed each other. He's fresh as a daisy, so all kinds of confidence. He bends down in front of Riddle. He's holding the belt in front of him. You're not championship material. You'll never be the NXT champion. But he gets a little too close. Riddle, with his last sort of gasp, gets him in the same armbar that he got Killian Dane in for the win, and works over Adam Cole's arm for a couple seconds in that armbar until the other 3 members of the Undisputed Era come down, save Cole, and we go to commercial break. And that basically ended the first hour, and we sort of fumble from there to the WWE Network. But I think this is really, really good. Riddle versus Cole is not necessarily... and please don't take this, and I'm going to correct myself ahead of time. This is not a dig at either guy. You guys know how I feel about Adam Cole, and Matt Riddle's a really interesting guy to watch in the ring. It's not necessarily a match that I would put on a takeover, or at least not main event a takeover with, but it is definitely a match that I would put on a weekly episode of NXT that you want to make more than a weekly episode of NXT, if that makes sense. If there's a happy medium between the weekly show and the takeover, it's kind of like saying, is there a happy medium between Raw and a pay-per-view? Is there a happy medium between weekly NXT and an NXT takeover? No, there isn't, but if there was, that's where you would put this match. So this is a great match to put alongside Undisputed Era versus Street Profits, alongside Shayna Baszler versus Candice LeRae on that, like I say, is becoming an impromptu NXT Night of Champions next week. Now, there's nothing going on with the North American Championship, which I would call them out on, but apparently, if the Dirt Sheets are to be believed, Velveteen Dream suffered an injury in his match with Roderick Strong last week. I don't know why that affects the match, because Roderick Strong's the champion. I'm an idiot. Moving on. We get a recap of the Kushida-Walter interaction from last week. Kushida, his match being interrupted by Imperium, and then him coming and sort of getting his shots in on all of them. We go to what I didn't know on social media, which is that Walter had a match somewhere else and used the post-match interview from that, whatever that match was, to call out Kushida this week on NXT. But it wasn't going to be him, it was going to be his 3 other guys. Kushida, go find 2 guys that you think are going to be your tag team partners, and we're going to have a 6-man tag, except I'm not going to be in it because I'm Walter and I'm big and I've got the belt, and yeah. If they want to do the big Night of Champions thing next week, why didn't they have Kushida versus Walter next week as well? But they didn't. Anyways, it's all good. I like Kushida. Kushida's a lot of fun, and Imperium are a bunch of badasses. Just don't give them microphones. Rhea Ripley versus Kayden Carter. Now, Kayden Carter was in the Mae Young Classic. She went by a different... I think it was Lacey Lane. Somebody compare me down in the box below. But I think at the time, I compared who to sort of like a punk rock raver version of Ember Moon. Just in her style and the way she presents herself. She moves so much, and she's agile so much like Kacy Catanzaro, who apparently has left WWE for a short period of time. I don't know all the details. I don't really want to get into it, but that's really a loss because I liked watching her. But Kayden Carter, I guess is what we're calling her now, taking on Rhea Ripley, and the size disparity between these 2 women. Holy fuck. But a series of strikes from Carter to start the match, a drop kick by Ripley, corner spears by Ripley, and a delayed vertical suplex that just looked terrifying. Some mounted forearm shots by Ripley, a head scissor by Carter, a springboard head scissor, and a springboard roll-up by Carter, but Ripley gets her in her grasp, hits the fucking riptide, which is gorgeous. Ripley gets the win, and then she boots her out of the ring. But I don't mean... She didn't boot her out of the ring, like, violently, or... It wasn't a post-match assault. She was just down on the edge of the ramp, and she just sort of nudged her with her toe and just rolled her out of the ring, like, get the fuck out of here. I love the bitchy attitude, the bitchy, entitled attitude of Rhea Ripley. Now, everybody's gonna say, oh, but Sasha Banks has the same way. Yeah, no. Sasha Banks isn't acting, though. That's the difference. I'm just going to say, that's not an argument. Or it is. It's a shit argument. You're about as dumb as the trigger warnings that are getting triggered over the Joker movie. Or the people out there that are mad that Pennywise isn't gay. I don't get that one. But people like that are people that are going to compare Sasha Banks, Trasha Skanks, to somebody as badass as Rhea Ripley. I'm just putting that out there, and yes, I'm getting more opinionated and I'm getting more cranky in my old age. That is a thing that's happening. You know what else is happening? Lorcan and Birch versus Ever-Rise, which is Martel and... I can't even think of the other guy's name. Parker. 2 guys from Quebec. They idolized Edge and Christian, and all the other Canadian names that the announcers could possibly think of. Mention Edge and Christian, obviously, because Beth Phoenix is on commentary. I love Beth Phoenix on commentary, by the way. It's fucking good. I like Renee Young. But Renee Young needs to be a little more Beth Phoenix, does she not? I didn't think of anything of these guys. I know I've seen them before, and I didn't even remember their names. But these guys are taking on Lorcan and Birch, who I really like, so I figured it was going to be a squash. It wasn't. Collar and elbow tie and an arm wringer by Martel. Lorcan reverses double chops by Birch and Lorcan. Birch with a headlock, a leg pick, an uppercut, double sweep by Lorcan and Birch. Punches by Barthel, suplexes by Parker, armbar and a backbreaker by Martel. Knee strikes by Parker. Front face lock, key lock by Martel, right hands by Birch, missile dropkick by Birch, an assisted DDT by Birch, and Lorcan gets the win. For the little bit of time that we had in this match, because it didn't go long, NXT is going longer than it used to be, and we're getting shorter matches. Not sure if I'm a fan of that, but we're getting all these different characters in really short, concise bursts. So for the people that are just getting used to NXT now, that's a cool way for them to get to know a lot of people really quickly. These two guys, Everrise, 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 I don't know whether that's supposed to be one word or two. They're interesting to watch. For two plain-looking dudes who didn't really come out with much of a gimmick other than we're two guys from Quebec, and they're going up against two guys that I like. I like what I saw from them in this match. They weren't going to win, but might be interesting. Street Profits are obviously going up to the main roster sooner than later. Forgotten Sons are the Forgotten Sons, and Undisputed Era can't hold those titles forever, so we need more teams. Lorcan and Birch need to have a title run, and these guys could maybe take them out. I really don't know. We pan to the crowd, where Chelsea, well, Mauro Ranallo is talking about the blossoming and booming and thriving women's division in WWE, and then they go to Chelsea Green and Donnie. I'm a retard. Don't listen to me at all. Chelsea Green and Deonna Purrazzo. There we go. I can speak, I swear. Hopefully that means we're going to see them in the ring soon. I don't have much to say about Chelsea Green, but I am a big, big fan of Deonna Purrazzo, not only on NXT, not only in the Mae Young Classic, not only at Destiny, but also she was the co-host on the Taz show for a while when they did their Spotlight on the Indies thing. Whole lot of reasons to like her. She's okay on the mic. She was great on the radio. I like what she does in the ring. I've seen her in person. I've had that luxury. Only win. There's only win here. Chelsea Green, Deonna Purrazzo, get them back in the mix. Cameron Grimes versus Raul Mendoza, which is funny because every time I see Raul Mendoza, I think of Rainier Wolfcastle from The Simpsons going, Mendoza! And then I immediately hate myself because I can't do an impression. Cameron Grimes had the really weird, 5-second victory over Sean Maluda last week, and I really thought we were going to get the same this week, but we didn't, which is good. Grimes misses that double stomp to start the match. Wrist lock by Mendoza. Armbreaker wrist lock combination by Mendoza into a head scissors. Springboard into a headlock takeover. Now, he goes and he springboards like he's going to bulldog somebody or he's going to DDT somebody, but instead he jumps almost past him, grabs his head at the last minute, and pulls it over into a headlock takeover. Is not quite something I've seen before, at least not that way. So Mendoza's doing good in the early going. I didn't know what to think of Mendoza when he debuted in NXT to begin with, I will admit, but the guy impresses the hell out of me in the ring, and I don't really care about Cameron Grimes. Moving on. Body shots by Grimes in a double cross body spot. They sort of roll over into each other. I don't really know what we're supposed to get from that, and I don't think the commentary did either. Sliding knee by Grimes, chops in an Irish whip, armbar by Grimes, and a crucifix by Mendoza does not get the win, unfortunately. Elbow by Grimes, grabbing at the face. Sorry, elbow lock by Grimes, grabbing at the face. And when I say elbow lock, he's got him in the armbar, but then he bends the arm into a different angle, a different position. The armbar just looked a bit weird because it looked like he was popping his elbow out, but the elbow was all you saw. You couldn't see his face and all that sort of thing. And then he reaches around with his free hand, rips at the face as well. That was cool. That was a nice submission spot. Running enziguri by Mendoza, chops and forearms, corner enziguri, and a drop kick by Mendoza. Springboard top rope, head scissor by Mendoza. But then, for reasons, because this is the guy we're pushing right now, Grimes gets that weird standing stomp thing and gets the win. More focus on Mendoza is what I would like, especially if NXT in this new 2-hour USA Network format, especially if they're going to be the new home for the cruiserweights, for the 205 Live guys, and for that championship. I mean, right now you got Drew Gulak with the title, you got Lio Rush in line for that title shot. In the future, give either Gulak or Lio Rush a match against Raul Mendoza. I think it'd be fantastic. Lio Rush versus Raul Mendoza. Tell me that's not a good match. Maybe not necessarily a title match. Maybe not one that's going to show up at a takeover or on the kickoff of the main roster pay-per-views. But it is a match I would like to see. It is an exhibition that I would like to see. It is a standoff, a face-to-face, an interaction that I would like to see. brings up the more interesting question of, now that the Cruiserweight title is potentially going to be on NXT, is it going to be featured on takeovers, or is it still going to be featured on the kickoffs of main roster pay-per-views? I think it would do a hell of a lot better on a takeover, because I don't think it ever belonged on the kickoff of anything. Moving on. And the upside of that is the kickoffs for takeovers don't actually have matches. They're only like a half hour. There's a bit of talking, and then you get into the show. Nothing gets relegated on a takeover. So I think not only that, not only being in front of the NXT crowd, not only being in front of the NXT takeover crowd being handled by Triple H and his team, I don't think you need to put the Cruiserweight title on a main event pay-per-view if you're going to be housing that division on NXT. I've rambled on that quite a bit. Love to know what you guys think down in the box below, but we're moving on to Imperium versus Kushida and two partners of his choosing. Now, Imperium, I did say a minute ago I don't like them on the mic, because I don't like them on the mic. Every time that group gets on the mic, they sort of pass it around like it's a joint, and they all say the same thing. We're here to protect this mat. This mat is sacred and serious, and if you don't believe us, you're going to get stomped down. Roddy, look at our leader. He's really big. So when they start talking about how sacred the mat is, it does remind me of the Revival a little bit. And who does the Revival hate to face? The Revival hates to face the New Day because they're fun. Hates to face the B Team because they're ridiculous. Hates to face the can't think of their names now. Tucky Heavy Machinery, because they're goofballs. So if Imperium is going to take on Kushida and two members of his choosing, why not team Kushida with Breezango? Breezango are goofy on their face. Kushida's got the Back to the Future thing with the Marty jacket. It's all good. Imperium's out there without Walter, because, and they told this story on commentary, but I agree in this case. It's great to see Imperium out there, and their leader has so much faith in the destruction that they can bring that he's not even out there with them. The biggest gun in that army isn't even on the battlefield. Yes, that was a really, really, really cliche metaphor, and yes, I just threw it at you. But it is indeed Kushida and Breezango taking on Imperium, which is obviously Fabian Aichner, Marcel Barthel, and Alexander Wolf. Alexander Wolf is in such a different context than he was last time he was in NXT. It's almost weird to see him in Full Sail in regular NXT. I think the first week they showed up, I think he got a very, very small welcome back chant, but it wasn't very big at all. Kushida and Fabian start the match. Toss out by Fabian and a mudhole stomp. Hip toss, drop kick by Kushida. Standing armbar. A triple team in the corner by Imperium and a rack by Wolf. Pin attempt by Fandango. A drop kick and he hangs him on the ropes. Super kick by Breeze off of that hang up in the ropes. Front face lock by Wolf. A suplex by Breeze. A super kick and a triple team in the corner again on Breeze. Running uppercut by Barthel. Headbutts and stomps. Arm and wrist lock combination submission by Wolf, followed by a backbreaker. Double super kick by Fabian and Barthel in the corner, sandwiching, I think it was Tyler Breeze's head. Slaps by Barthel on the outside. Barthel stands on the wrist of Tyler Breeze, which is, because Tyler Breeze isn't the big, like, I mean, they're all in better shape than me, let's be real. But Tyler Breeze ain't a big dude, so when you get down to, like, ankles, feet, arms, wrists, hands, that type of thing, he's probably got a pretty small wrist by comparison to some of the bigger guys in Imperium. So to stand on his wrist, it goes back to the shit in the first match. If you're gonna fuck with somebody's wrist, their arms, they can't get their equilibrium, they can't plant properly, even if they are using kicks. It's a nice, neat little thing. Backdrop by Fabian, uppercuts by Barthel, overhead keylock by Barthel and turns it into a front face lock. Triple mudhole stomp in the corner by Imperium. Enziguri by Breeze. Chops for everybody by Fandango off the hot tag. And he hits, when he hits the Falcon Arrow, he gets the guy and he almost runs with it as it comes down into the Falcon. He does a better Falcon Arrow than Seth Rollins, but that really doesn't say very much. Suicide Senton by Fandango onto all three guys. Back in the ring, dropkick by Kushida. All six guys file into the ring. Everybody else falls out again. Kushida gets this weird rolling thunder roll up with a bridge to get the win. Kushida and Breezango get the win, but does not get the final word of the night because Walter lays him out on the ramp, and all four members of Imperium just do their hands behind the back, standing very solemn over. I would have really liked it, and it would have been retreading old territory for people like me who do watch NXT UK, but if Walter came down during the match and made it a 4-on-3 advantage, and Pete Dunne had joined Kushida and Breezango and made it a 4-on-4, you know, like they do on the main roster, we don't like it all the time. Oh, there's some interference, so we're just going to make it a bigger tag match now. This is where you could have gotten away with it. People love Tyler Breeze. People love Fandango. They love the Breezango team. They're loving the new Kushida in NXT. I mean, new for people like me who he's new to. But they love Pete Dunne. That team would have been over. That crowd would have been electric. I don't know what Pete Dunne's doing. I know he's floating between the brands, etc. I just think, off the top of my head, that could have been a really cool addition. This is really cool. Like I say, I'm saying cool a lot, which somebody was nice enough to tell me on Twitter, which is also cool. Here's the thing. I would be more enthused about all of this if we weren't getting fucked for being able to watch this on a proper channel, if I wasn't struggling with streams and Chromecasters and all that just to get through the show, if they weren't moving things around, doing this, doing that. Now, I will say, in comparison, AEW's fucking us too. Because AEW isn't broadcasting in Canada or worldwide either. They've got this brand new deal with the Fight app, which is fine, except if you want to watch Dynamite and you don't live in the States, you got to pay $5 a month. So fuck them as well. It's not just NXT and it's not just WWE. But the Wednesday Night War is fucking anybody that doesn't live in the States. And that's not anything against my friends, my viewers, my community members in the States. All you guys are great. I hope you guys are enjoying everything that is available to you. I just wish it was available to me too. And so yeah, so if I've missed stuff or if I don't seem as enthused as I actually am, I do apologize. It's a little bit frustrating. We're going to get through it as we get through it. As I say, the NXT review live streams are moving to Thursdays at 7 p.m. as you will well know, as you're probably watching this at a little bit after 7 p.m. on Thursday. That was a bit redundant. We do, like I say, we do have some topical stuff coming up, some potential movie-related stuff coming later on down the line, and a couple other surprises if I can work them out. I don't really know. We're going to preview Hell in the Cell next week. Guapo and I are going to talk about the biggest week in TV wrestling in a long time at some point by the end of this week. As I say, again, not to be repetitive one more time, please don't take my lack of enthusiasm as lack of enthusiasm for the product. It's literally just frustration that I don't have great access to the product. But this was a good show. Next week's show, the NXT Night of Champions, should be a lot of fun. I hope I can see it all. Anyways, I've been Spaz, your YWC Reality Check. Subscribe up there, talk down there, start a conversation. Keep all of these conversations going. Don't be a stranger. I will talk to each and every last one of you later, but for right now, I am tagging out. Bye, guys.
Like me, don't apologize. They can hold you down. You were born to rise. It's our time now to come out. If you're a freak like me.